Hey folks, welcome to the table. So as you can see, we're going to be doing Cloudspire from Chip Theory Games. I haven't done a Chip Theory game yet, although I own almost all of them. And there's a reason, and it largely gets to what and why my channel exists. I record my games and, upload these videos not because I'm trying to make money, although you guys have probably noticed that advertisements are now there, which is sort of cool. I still don't fully understand it all. Starting to learn about it. But if I can briefly just say what the goal of my channel was and is, you'll notice that I cover games that nobody else in the world has on YouTube. For example, I'm the only one that has done Where There Is Discord. I'm the only one that has done Code Word Cromwell. And I'm the only one that has ever done 18OE. And then there's games like D-Day at Omaha Beach. And all 4 of the D-Day games have been covered by me. I am the only one who has ever covered all 4. And it's not meant to pat myself on the back. The reason I do this is because I'm trying to cover games that the main money-making guys aren't willing to do. So, for example, I'm very good friends with Colin from One Stop Co-op Shop. I'm very familiar with Rolling Solo and then his uncle Rodney Smith with Watch It Played, who has given me many advice on how to record with my children involved. So I do interact with these folks, and I'm very aware of what they do, and we have some great conversations. But here's the thing, I'm not trying to do what they do. They edit their videos heavily. They have very top quality production. But if you'll also notice that, and especially in the case of the solitaire gamers, they don't do D-Day at Omaha Beach. And D-Day at Omaha Beach is arguably one of the best solitaire games ever made. I think Mage Knight probably gets the top vote from people, but if you've ever tried D-Day at Omaha Beach, you would be quite impressed. So why don't they do those kind of games? Well, they don't do it because there's not a large market share. There's no money in it. The amount of views. What's interesting is, like I said, I started to notice I have advertisements now. So now they email me these statistics. And so I can see how many people viewed my videos. And I guess it was always there. I just never bothered to care. My D-Day at Omaha Beach videos gets a very low number of views, whereas my Fantasy Flight games that I did, like Discover Lands Unknown, are triple, quadruple, quintuple the views. So anyways, that's just my point. So why am I saying all this when I'm talking about Cloudspire? That's the reason I don't usually do games like this, because I think Rolling Solo is doing a Cloudspire playthrough. And those are top quality videos, folks. I don't compare to them. I don't even come close. So I usually don't do those. Or I play these games. I play those games. I just don't record it and share it with you guys. But I happen to be playing this one, and so I felt like I needed to, or wanted to show it. Also, I did watch a few videos that other folks have done, and I don't think they do a great job of explaining the rules. I mean, they show themselves playing the game, which is great, but I felt like they really skim over the rules, which is funny because some folks, that's what they email me and gripe about. Like, a lot of the comments I get are people think I spend way too long explaining the rules. But anyways, so there you have it. Sorry I wasted too much time talking about this. So I am going to cover a game that the main people cover, and if you're here, I highly recommend that you go and look at those top quality production videos. They're worth watching. I'm not here for the money. I will never ask you for a like or subscribe. I try to cover games that those other people don't cover. So I'm sort of breaking my rules here. And I'm especially feeling guilty because I have this game over here called Combat, which is also not covered by those same people. And I'm playing this instead. But I have to confess, this is more my style of game than combat is. I'm not as big in war games as I am on this, so this has been where my attention has been. So I just wanted to share it with you guys, and you know, please forgive me. And for those of you that are here expecting, you know, like a rolling solo type of video quality, you're not going to find it here. And that's just my disclaimer. But what I will promise you is genuine gameplay, genuine conversation, and I will do a full campaign playthrough instead of just one scenario, because that's typically my style. I have to do something that those guys don't do, and that's usually where I differentiate from them. So anyways, without further ado, let's get going. Okay, this game comes with some expansions. There's the Portal Seekers that are over here, and then we have this thing called the Greege, which looks like it's a new faction. I did not add those to this game. Those are not going to be included because I'm just trying to get my arms around a basic game. Now, there are many ways to play. You can play this game as like a 4-player, you know, 4 players, and they have like a, you know, a center, you know, this is considered a tile region. You can have a center one with 6 of them around, and then you can have 4 players that are around that. Sorry, I bumped the camera. And so player versus player, it's your classic, you know, defense of the ancients, you know, type of tower defense. So the goal of this game is we're going to, you know, each side is going to be producing units, and they're going to march from, you know, this fortress to destroy that fortress and vice versa. Okay, so let me give my usual disclaimer. If you're here just to watch the gameplay, go to video 2. If you're here to watch an introduction to the components and setup, this is the video for you. I promise I won't do any gameplay until video 2. So, so let's keep going. So then what you have is you have this a solo scenario book, which is quite big, and this whole thing is one kind of campaign. It's meant to be a campaign. You start here at mission 1 and you go all the way through. Because I noticed that all the videos that I found on YouTube were this particular mission that I'm going to do. And of course, my first natural inclination was, well, screw it, we're not doing this mission. Let's do a different one. And it's really funny, but you have to do this mission if you're going to play solitaire. Now, they also have cooperative scenarios where 2 players are playing against the AI. And I very much considered doing this, where we controlled 2 players and we'll just schizophrenically control both players, right? As a solitaire player, we'll control both of the players and see how this goes, because I think this is going to lead to some more interesting situations, because since there's 2 AI or 2 human players, there's probably going to be multiple AI players as well. But I chose against this because I'm still learning the game, and I just thought this would be a layer of complication. But you know what? If I really enjoy this game, which so far it seems like I might, you know, we may do this as like a phase 2 of our videos. And this is one, by the way, that nobody on YouTube is doing. So this was more my style, right? So like I said, I want to produce things that the people on YouTube are not doing, and nobody has done a cooperative scenario. So it'd be really nice to get one out there, because maybe some of you are doing the cooperative scenarios and you may want to see how those play versus the solitaire. But unfortunately, I'm not quite there. Okay, so what else comes with the with the game? So as you can see, we have our 2 fortresses on each side, and every fortress looks like this. And then you're going to see there's a silhouette of a circle there. That's for a chip, of course. And then this is what's called the source, or a source well, or a source location. And we're going to be playing as the Brahmin, which are like a giant type of race of people. And of course, our fortress is this one over here. And maybe I should pull that off and show you a closer view of that. This is a different race, mind you. I don't want to confuse you, but I just wanted to get something that was closer to the camera for you. And so we have different types of chips. So actually, let me do this because I don't want to create confusion. This is the one that actually we're going to be playing with, is this one. This is our race. And you can still see the two silhouettes here. And there's different types of chips. Every faction, there's 4 of them. And let me show you. There's 4 factions. You have basically a bird faction, sky faction, or whatever. This is a faction that, you know, the source, these source wells, they sort of worship it and want to someday become one with it. You know, it's sort of almost like a Jedi kind of thing. And then you have the tree people, which are your basic nature fights back. And then of course the race we're playing. Now these chips are meant to be used to what's called a mark. So if I'm playing a multiplayer game, there's going to be multiple fortresses out here, right? And so you can see that there's a path that minions can walk along until they get to the enemy fortress. Well, if there's more than one fortress, I can choose, put a mark here, and that means all my minions are going to go after this one. And if there was another fortress somewhere else, they wouldn't go after that. This is their mark for this turn. So these particular tokens, if you're playing the solitaire game, you're never going to get to use them. They just set them off to the side. Now, the fortress itself, like I said, we have these hero tokens, and these are going to be, you know, your badasses in the game. And so there's 3 for every faction. And then you have, and I want to show you this, there's 3 types of tokens. And let's see if I can zoom in a little. So notice that this one has, and pay attention to right where my fingernail is. So along the outer edge here, it's gold. And here you can see it's bronze, and there you can see it's silver. So hopefully you can see the difference between the 3. And if you understand that, you can sort all your tokens pretty easily when you open the box. So the gold ones are the heroes, which I just explained. The bronze ones are like your minions. They're the ones that you're going to send out to do damage and, you know, stir things up. And then the silver ones are what's called platforms. And spires. I'm sorry, spires. These are called spires. And think of them as towers. So if you've ever played a tower defense game, these are your towers, more or less. So they go on these locations that have the source on them. So they would go in that location there, or this location here, or that location there, and so forth. So that's where these spires would go. And they don't move. They're just like a tower. If you think of it that way, if you understand tower defense, you'll know what these spires do. Now the fortress has room for 2 spires. That's what this is. And then it is also going to have a gate, which is going to have a whole bunch of powerful... the gate is what you're trying to protect. If the gate ever gets destroyed, you lose the game. So in most cases, if you're playing a multiplayer that's more than 2 player, it gets a little more wonky. But the point is you don't want to lose this gate. The gate is your lifeblood. And once you lose the gate, then they come in and they destroy your inside. So we do have room for 2 spires. That's the reason why you see these silhouette here. And then there's a spot to put dice. And for example, our faction has 3 dice. And they're color-coded. And you'll see that there's a color-coded, 3 dice for each faction, it looks like. And then on the far here, those are just generic dice that everybody uses. And for example, I don't remember which one's which, but when you unlock particular dice, you would put them here, and then you would roll them at the appropriate times. And this is all part of your abilities that we're going to get into later when we play the game. Okay, now the other thing, though, is sometimes these dice don't get unlocked until you're at like level 3 honor pit. Okay, now how do I know all this? Well, you have this card, and you can see, for example, here, the assembly. When you get to level 3, you can build a construction yard where you gain the assembly die. The assembly die would be this one. And yeah, I actually had it in the exact right spot. So that assembly guy goes there, but only when you're a level 3 construction yard. So how do I know I'm level 1, level 2, level 3? Well, that's where these come in. So they give you this little case, which is really slick, and it twists open. So that way, it doesn't just pop, it twists. And it's really slick because it's very secure. And then you get out these little pegs, and they actually have holes where your peg goes into the hole. So now I got a level 1 assembly yard. And then once I would get to level 3, then I would know to put the die in because of my other sheet. And so you have these little pegs that keep track of things. It's a pretty slick little system. I've never seen Chip Theory do it before. And this, I think, was, maybe they tried it with a different game I don't have. But this was, to me, it was a home run. I really liked how they did that. And yeah, and seeing it secures on really nicely. So, so yeah, the little neoprene mats now have these little dots or peg holes for denoting which level you are. And that's true for every one of your buildings. If you've ever played Heroes of Might and Magic on the PC, this is just like that, where you can build your various buildings by spending resources and you level them up. And then every time they level up, they give you things. This game has a lot of that, and it's actually one of the reasons why I'm a little excited to play it. You also get one of these, which is a health meter. And you can see here, there's your little token. And this is the health of your fortress. So my fortress has 10 health, so I would put that in like so. And then you can see here, this is our source, which is really your money in the game, if you want to look at it that way. So it goes up to 30, 20 on one side, and then up to 30 on the other. At the beginning of the game, unless your scenario has the specific rules, you can only ever go up to 20. And if you ever earn more than 20, you lose whatever you earn. But I can tell you, like, for example, with this, one of these buildings, I don't remember which one, but when you build it up to level whatever, it actually unlocks your ability to go up to 30. And I think that's how most of the factions are probably set up. So yeah, we're starting the game with 0. So I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, see, every time I pick it up, it just falls out. So I'm going to put these in once I put it back where it belongs. But you're going to start the game at 0, and then you gain income as you go. Now, there are 4 waves in the game. So you're going to be able to send minions after each other 4 times. Now, sometimes there could be a wave 5 or a wave 6, depending on the scenario. But a basic game is 4 waves. And they do have rules that even if you're playing multiplayer, you can add a 5th and 6th wave if you choose. We're not doing anything like that. We're just going to go with the solitaire campaign, whatever that happens to be. So just getting these back out and setting this back to 10 health. So I do like the way they put chips inside, and then you can just spin them. It is pretty good. And even if you bump it, it doesn't move. So it's pretty nice compared to most situations. And then we'll have to do the same thing for the AI. The AI never uses source, so we don't need this for the AI, but they do have 10 health on their fortress, so we'll go ahead and set that in, and so that is good to go. All right, so what else? What else do we need to know? Some basic things that for you to understand is, let's look at our heroes real quick. Every unit that is fighting in the game has a health. This would have 3 health. He has 1 attack, which means he does 1 damage. I'm sorry, 1 attack, which means he rolls 1 die. And then 2 is movement. That's his movement. Now this is how much it costs to put him in the game. And of course, heroes are free. But you're limited. Well, not all heroes are free. I apologize, but this one is. And but the thing is you're limited in how many. You can only ever have 2 heroes in the game at any time, and at the very first wave, you're only allowed to have 1 hero. So you can't add the second hero until at least wave 2. And then this here is actually the reward that the enemy gets if they defeat this hero. So this hero would give them 3 source. if they defeat him. So the enemy would get something for defeating him. And I know the AI doesn't do anything with source, so this actually wouldn't give the AI any bonus. But now this little symbol here with the trees is their movement capabilities. And there's it's a very interesting construct. And let me show you. The back of the rule book has a really wonderful reference for the waves. Now remember, this is a player versus player game. So in a typical player versus player, you start with wave 1 with 5 source, and then you get what's called 5 CP, which is basically purchase points for building units. And then you can see it progressively goes up. Okay, and then these are all the phases of each wave, which we'll get into when we start playing. And then you have different upgrade chips, which I'll explain in a second, but this is where I'm at right now. If you see a little water symbol, it means you can move on all terrain. If you see a mountain, you can move on everything but the water. The forest is everything but the mountain and water, and then the grass is everything but the forest, mountain, and water. So I hope that makes sense. And then if they have no icon at all, they're only allowed to move on these pebble roads. So there is... no matter what happens in the game, there is solid rules that you can never, ever block the roads. There always has to be a path that goes from your fortress to every other fortress. Because there is an ability to buy these and actually put them on the board. So, for example, I could put something on the board like that. That is normally legal, except what I just did is I blocked the path. So then that becomes illegal. So, but I could, do something like this. That would be very allowed. I blocked the path going this way, but that's okay because I can still trace a path that goes to the enemy fortress. Now there's other rules for when you can place these and how, and we'll get into those later. But that's just what you do is you basically shuffle these and put them in a pile, and one of them is going to be face up, like that. And so that's available for purchase in what's called the market. Now the market chips are these black chips. So you're just going to, shuffle them. And then there's going to be, a certain number of them. I can't remember the number. We would have to look it up. But there'll be a certain number of them in the market. And the way they work is you can see this. They're gonna have the same symbols. They'll have the bronze if they're a minion. There's actually heroes you can hire, which will have the gold outline. And then there's even spires, which have silver. So you can actually get spires from the market. And then they have the exact same criteria. And then these keywords at the bottom, just like classic chip theory fashion, they're called talents. And there's like a little lookup sheet. Now this one's specifically for landmark, but then the mark, which is the one we were just looking at, is here. So I can't even remember, his I think was anarchy. And so you can see there's the anarchy keyword, and then you can see what the anarchy does. So that is for the landmarks are these white tokens, and landmarks typically are going to end up over top of these. And so you're going to have to like reveal and maybe defeat a landmark before you can build a spire on them. It depends. It's not a guaranteed locked in stone kind of thing, but that is a possibility, in your scenarios. So that's what this sheet is for. And then of course you're going to have your sheet. This one is all the upgrades in your fortress, which we sort of talked about. But if I flip it over, we have our own talents. So these are all the talents. So you can see like our units have assault and unruly on it. And you'll see here there's assault and unruly. And I really appreciate this. So I played a lot of Too Many Bones. They used to have a sheet that had all these keywords, but it was like all mixed together. I really love now that the keywords for my faction are on my sheet. And I don't have to look at keywords that belong to other factions on the same sheet. So this governs anything that's related to my chips. And I don't have to worry about reading the stuff that belongs to the other chips. It's a pretty nice little thing that they did. So I think that gives you a nice introduction to everything. The event cards in a player versus player starting on wave 2 and going on, you're going to draw an event card, which will, you know, so this impacts the onslaught phase, and it's going to change the rules of the game or cause something to happen there. In a solitaire mode, I don't think we're ever going to use event cards unless the scenario tells us to. So for example, this particular one we're going to do, we're going to roll a die, and then based on what we roll, that's going to be the event. So these event cards may not be used in your solitaire game as much as they would be in like a player versus player. So I'm going to just set these aside. Now, these relic cards are just awesome upgrades. Sometimes they're single use, sometimes they're rest of the game, sometimes they're for a wave, things of that nature. And you get these when you defeat certain things. So remember I showed you that if you defeated this hero, you got 3 source. Well, there's some times when you actually get a faction, a relic card instead. I was looking for an example that actually did that, and of course I don't find any, because none of our units seem to do that. But it is possible that you'll end up getting a relic card. So just shuffle these and set them off to the side. So consider that done. Okay, like I said, we're going to have our little cheat sheets, and so I'm just going to set those aside. The back of this book is awesome, so definitely keep the main rule book, the back of it, face up like this. You'll find this very helpful. And then the back of the solitaire book is also awesome because it has the one part about the AI that I'm not going to remember, right? So if the AI has multiple units that it can attack, here's the priority that it's going to use. Awesome. Because I can understand most of this just by looking at it real quick. It's very nice. Now, the scenario itself could change these priorities, and that's fine, because the scenarios are going to have unique scenario rules. But at least in a general sense, this is what we do. So very awesome, and we'll definitely be referencing that a lot. One disclaimer. These are the damage chips, which you'll see down here. I also have damage chips. And let me grab one of these for you. Well, here, I got one right here. So this is like, if you've ever played the game Connect 4, these are very lightweight plastic tokens. You know, they're very feathery. They're only weighs maybe a few ounces. They're perfectly viable and usable, and they're meant to represent health points. But I paid, back in the Hoplomachus days of chip theory, I did buy these, and these are premium health tokens, and I use them in every chip theory game I play. So when we play Too Many Bones, I use these, and of course in Hoplomachus, and now in this game. And I mean, I know you can't feel what I'm feeling here, but this is a very heavy, this is in the grams, you know, chip, whereas this one is just nothing. And so it's just a nice heavy chip, and every chip that comes with the game is the same heavy, you know, type of chip. So they tend to go cheap on the health ones, and I understand why. It probably saves them in manufacturing costs. And then they always have an option at their website for you to buy these. There is no functional difference in these other than just aesthetics. But I am using these, but I just want you to know that if you open your copy and you never bought these special, you're not going to find this in your copy. So this is what you'll find instead, and that's it. Probably said way more on that than I needed to. So yes, we will use them because I always like using the premium chips. I mean, if you spend the money for them, of course you want to use them, right? So I'm going to just set those over to the side. Every unit has a regular side and a upgraded side. Now that doesn't, there's other factions that are going to look maybe different, but at least for this particular faction, that's the way it works. And you're going to notice that units will have these little blue dots. See that little blue dot there? That blue dot is called an upgrade. So it has a capacity to be upgraded once. And the way heroes work is if he levels up, he gets that upgrade, right? And then if he levels up again, and let's say he had 3 upgrade dots, not all of them do. Well, here we go. Here's one with 2 upgrade dots. So if both of these were to level up, they both would get an upgrade. But then let's say they level up a second time. This guy actually flips over to his promoted side, whereas this one would only get a second upgrade, and only when he gets his 3rd level up would he promote. So basically the upgrade points are how much can be upgraded before they're promoted, but we're talking only heroes here. The rules get different when you start talking about units. This one has no upgrade capability on either side. So whether or not they're promoted or not is actually based on the buildings that we build in our fortress. But the towers here, you can see, has 3 upgrades. But again, the promotion to the other side has nothing to do with the upgrades. That rule I was explaining to you where you only promote to the other side once you have all your upgrades, that's only for heroes. For these, it's just showing that you can have upgrades. So what do I mean by upgrade? Okay, so let's look at this Spire. The phase of the game when battle occurs is you're going to see we're going to get to construct. There's a build phase where we construct spires, upgrade them. See that upgrade? The upgrade, of course, is limited by the number of pips you see there. But then you're going to prep, and then onslaught is where the actual action occurs, right? That's where the battles occur. So we start our turn, we do movement, and you'll see the spires we're going to fire first. And then after exploration, our units and the enemy minions will attack. So we don't attack until the end. So the spires are going to get to fire on us before we get to fire on them, okay? As long as you understand that much for now, that's all you need to know. We'll get into the rest while we're playing. But, and they do have a really nice here where it says heroes and minions. It shows that when you're leveling up, how the rules are different for heroes than they are for minions. And very awesome. Like I said, you're going to want that side of the book face up. Okay, so how does this Spire work? The Spires, their health points are actually their upgrade tokens. So this one is going to start with an attack upgrade, which is this, okay? And then it's going to also have a range upgrade, which is this. Now, we get to pick the order that they're going to be in, and here's why. When somebody attacks this token, if they do 1 damage to the Spire, the token on the bottom gets removed first, and then the token on the top. So in this case, we're probably going to want to do it this way, and I'll explain why. This Spire, if it attacks the enemy, it's going to do 1 damage. And it's going to have 1 extra range, which is pretty good. So so basically this one will shoot 2 spaces, because it automatically always has 1 range, can attack adjacent. So this means it's like an extra range. Let's look at it that way. So he can now shoot 2 spaces away, and he'll do 1 damage. But let's say that this got destroyed. Well, now he can shoot 2 spaces away, but he does 0 damage, because there's no attack anymore. This is only like a guideline for when you first build the tower. And then every time you use the tower, you have to sort of look at its side and count the upgrade chips. So now he has 3 blips. So I can do this. 1, 2, 3. So now, how much damage is he going to do? He's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. And he's going to be able to do it 2 spaces away. Now, if this tower were to take damage, I would lose this one first, and then this one second, and then this one third. Now, some other rules. If he takes damage from a unit, and let's say the enemy unit does 5 damage to him, only one of these gets removed. So he can only ever get hit 1 at a time. Now, if there's 3 minions around him, all 3 minions can hit him for 1 damage, and yeah, he can end up losing 3. But, so each of these are 1 damage. Now, there's one more type that I haven't talked about yet, and that's Fortification, and that's yellow here. So the Fortification is, as you would guess, it's basically defense. So in order to remove one of these, you have to do 2 damage to the Spire instead of 1. So it's going to take 2 damage. So if some unit just tries to hit this thing and only does 1 damage to it, this will absorb it and no damage will be done at all to your Spire. Obviously this is illegal, right? Because I just added 1, 2, 3, 4 above and beyond the original 2. And you can see he only takes 3 upgrades. So that would have been illegal to do, but I would have to do something like that. Now, if this is in the middle, let's say this is your situation, and somebody does 1 damage to it, it's going to destroy this. Now, you might be thinking, oh, hey, hold on a second. This thing absorbs 2 damage. It's whatever's on bottom. The bottom dictates everything. And every upgrade goes on the bottom. So just because he has this nice little 2 damage shield in place, when I do an upgrade after that, it's going to go on the bottom, and next time a minion comes and does 1 damage to this tower, or this Spire, it will cause that to go away, and then now this will be in effect after. So I probably went way too deep on that, but that's how Spires work. Now units, obviously when this thing flips over, see he has 4 upgrade pips, and then he also has a base of 1 and 2, so his range is even better. So those are some things to consider. Most of the time these Spires don't flip over. What they will do instead is you basically finish the building in your fortress, and now you can build this side or that side, and you can see there's a different cost. This has a cost of 6 source. This has a cost of 4. So you have to pay a little extra to have that extra oomph. Now there's our particular race has this builder ability, which is really cool. So this little architect can go out there and actually flip those towers over and upgrade them and do all kinds of cool stuff to them. And he does it for free. But then he only has so many charges, and then he actually disappears. But anyways, I'm getting into the gameplay there. Now, our units also have a similar thing. You can see here, this one has a 2 and a 3. So, you know, you can upgrade him by doing this. But the difference here is that this 2 and 3 is active the whole game. Whereas, remember I told you this is only a starting point, and then you ignore it. You have to always just look at the chips for the Spire. For the units, that's not the case. This is an attack of 2, and then that's now an attack of 3. And yes, you can upgrade, give him upgrades as well. And you can see here, he's got 2 pips, so he can take 2 attack upgrades if you wanted. Or you can even give him a range upgrade, which I think I'd have to check the rules. I think you can only give them a range upgrade if they actually had range in the first place. I need to check. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm just doing this for an example purpose. But I know for sure you can do that. And I don't think you can give them this. I will have to look on that as well. Oh, no, you can. Yes, you can. I remember now. So here's the deal. He has 6 health. So I would grow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he would get 6 health, right? So he has an attack upgrade and 6 health. And then if you give him one of these, that's considered a 7th health. So now he has 7 health. So it doesn't give him like 2 defense or anything crazy like that, but it's extra health points. And now both of these would consume his 2 blips. He's fully upgraded. And then if he leveled up again, now that he has the 2 upgrades, he would then, so he has the 2 upgrades here, then he would flip over to this side, and he has, again, 2 upgrades for there. I think I remember reading a rule that if you do flip from one side to the other, you lose all your upgrades and have to get them back again. But I don't know if that applies to heroes or just the Spires. That's the thing. When you remember rules or read rules, you remember there was something in the rules about that, but I don't remember all the details. So we'll have to, when we play, we'll make sure we get it right. But that's just what I wanted to make sure you understood. Okay, so now that we did all that talking, let's go ahead and get started. Now, I watched some videos of other guys playing, and they did a great job of explaining the setup, so I don't think there's anything I'm going to be able to, you know, profoundly do here. So we're going to go ahead and set this scenario up the rest of the way. So what we have to do is we have to roll a die. So let me do that right now. I rolled a 5. So what they're saying is B and D are going to swap. So these two will swap. Since this is our first time playing, it doesn't mean anything to me. So we'll just make sure B and D are swapped. Okay, so they do have the little numbers here to represent things. Don't worry about that. But the A, B, C, D, and E do matter. And here you can see that A is a high-rise spire. And so we're, our enemy in this particular scenario are the heirs, which is sort of like a nice little play on words that Chip Theory is doing. Those are the birds, which are in the air. So it's pretty cool. So which color are they? The birds are purple. So let's grab the purple chips and let's go through them real quick. They're real easy to do. The bronze are the minions, right? So we can just weed out the bronze ones. So ding, 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 ding. Get all the bronze set aside. And then there's a gold one. See, bronze and gold are bad on my eyes. Another bronze. And there's the third hero. And now you see there's the silver ones. Okay? So what it's saying is that on A, we need a high-rise spire. So here you can see the high-rise spire. Now, the AI is allowed to break all rules when it comes to, like, maybe they can't build a high-rise unless their fortress has a certain upgrade inside of it. The AI doesn't follow any of that. So if it tells you to build a high-rise, then that's what you build. And then this ARR is real simple. It's attack, range, range. So we grab an attack and we grab 2 range, and you put it in the exact order that it tells you. So attack, range, range, just like that. Okay? And so that high rise is going to go into position A, which is right here. So that's the enemy high rise. And then we just keep going. So now we have B, which is a minaret, which is this one. And you completely ignore what it says here. You just do what it says here. And this one's like bonkers. Look at this thing. Attack, attack, range, range, fortress, 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 and fortress. So that's 5 fortress, if I saw that correctly. Holy buckets. I've never even played the game, and I can tell you that that looks like an impressive tower or spire. So here's what it would look like. Attack, attack, range, range, fortress, 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 fortress. Okay? So remember B and D got swapped. So instead of putting it here, I'm going to put it down here. So that would be where this mountain is, here. So B and D got swapped. So that's the B in the D location. And so now we're going to, let's just do D while we're looking. Regal Lookout Spire. So here's a Regal Lookout. And it says ARR. So here we go, ARR, and then this one will go where the B should be, and that's here. And then the C is another high rise. So here we go, we got a high rise, and it's ARR, so ARR. So these things have a lot of range, and it's gonna go here, which looks like right there. And if you'll notice, they always get built where there's sources, and we're limited to those as well. Okay, and now E is Cram the Mighty. That's us. We have Cram the Mighty, and I'm assuming he's not promoted. So he's going to go in E, which is here. And then F is Darb. And he's got a little asterisk next to him. I don't know what that means, but Darb is their hero. This guy right here. And he has 1 attack upgrade. So I think this star is just telling us to look at the scenario setup, and we'll do that. But anyways, he starts in the fortress here. All right, and then everything else is just their spires, heroes, and I'm just going to sit them off to the side here. And then this, of course, is all their minions. And as far as setup goes, we're done with setup. Now, there's some really nice flavor text here. I didn't even read it. But anyways, it does explain a little bit about why they're here and why they're fighting. I watched a video of someone else reading this. So I haven't read it, but I watched the video. So that's the reason why I know a little bit. So then we get into this. Now, jumping ahead a little bit, there's the 4 waves, and they've got specific criteria of what's going to happen in each wave. So it's going to tell us how many points we have to buy units every round, and then it's going to tell us what the heirs are going to do. So here they're going to deploy a Harrier, Harrier, Harrier. So that's 3 of their minions, right, are going to be deployed in wave 1. They're going to deploy 3 Harriers. And here's the little, well, that's not the little star. Here it is. Star equals promoted side. So we now know that Darb here, who had the star, is actually promoted to his star side. So we're going to promote him. And then this lays out our objectives and everything we need to know about the scenario. And at least for this particular scenario, it's not too heavy, which I appreciate. So the minaret spires have to be defeated. That's one objective, right? So the minaret spires, of course, just as a reminder, this is a high-rise. That's a Regal lookout, a refuge, and a high-rise. So which one of these are minaret spires? Oh... This one is a minaret, which of course is the biggest, toughest one ever. Yeah, there's one minaret, it's this one, even though it's on the refuge side. That's what made it confusing. All air spires are defeated, so that would be everything else. And then the air fortress gate, okay, so that would be the actual gate itself. So win-loss conditions. We have to complete at least one objective to win. And remember, we have 4 waves. If our fortress gate is defeated or we lose Cram the Mighty, that's our loss condition. Now, the way the campaign works here is if you ever lose, you're forced to replay the scenario. So you don't lose the campaign, but you can't move to the next scenario until you win at least once. Or you got to win. And every time you lose, you just keep repeating the scenario over and over. Special rules. Cram the Mighty is the only hero we're allowed to use, so we won't be able to use the other ones. AI notes, Darb remains in the fortress and is considered out of play until wave 3. Okay, fair enough. And then Darb, mark, so his mark. Remember, the mark is what's their primary objective. So Darb is trying to kill Cram. That's his primary focus, and Cram is more important than opposing fortress gate. Now, why are they saying that? Because normally the AI is going after the opposing fortress gate. See right there at the top priority is opposing fortress gate. And then the opposing hero it can defeat, etc., etc. Okay? But so this is changing those rules and saying that Cram is his top priority before anything else. And then if he attacks Cram, he's only going to do it if damage can be done. Otherwise, it's opposing fortress gate or opposing spire if damage can be done, opposing minion if it would be defeated. So he doesn't even worry about opposing minions if it wouldn't be defeated. And then when he levels, he takes attack upgrades and he ignores upgrade restrictions. So meaning you don't look at the pips on him. He can ignore the pips. Now, AI talent triggers. all this is it's just saying that if you see the elfin talent, whatever is normally the elfin talent, you replace it with this. So this is sort of like it could even modify the language of how a talent works for the AI. So they have 4 of them that we're going to have to use throughout the game. And then remember how I told you we don't draw event cards normally, and that we're not going to do that here. We're going to roll a die, and then based on the die result, it's going to change something. And that's it. We have everything we need to start playing. The rest of this is just playing normal rules. And I think this is a kitty glove scenario. I really do. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to win. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of like stuff that's going on, because you can see here during the income phase, we don't get any source. Okay, source is how you buy things and build spires and things of that nature. So I don't think we're going to get to build any spires because you need source to build spires. See, look, our spires here, that one costs 4 source. See that? We don't get any income of source. So if we want to build a spire, we're going to have to find a way to increase our income some other way. Now, one final thing, and maybe we'll cover this more when we actually start the gameplay. How do you know, like, okay, let's say I'm going to build a spire. Where can I build it? How can I build it? I've already told you that you build it on these little spots, these source spots. The basic rule is your fortress can always be built, right? You got the 2 spots there. If your fortress tile is connected to another tile, you have influence over this tile. So we have influence over this tile, and therefore we can build on these 2 spots. We don't have influence here because this is not connected to anything we have influence in. Well, a tower or spire. Now, the moment I build a spire here, I now have influence over this and this. And so then I can actually build a spire over here and a spire over there if I wanted. So just trying to explain that that's a basic, the term is called influence. And so I have influence over this right now, but as soon as I build something here, I now have influence over this and this because both of these are connected to that. And I hope that makes sense. And the AI also has influence, but it's been my understanding, at least so far, because there's even like a section in the beginning that talks about like what the AI does to break the rules. The spires and when they get built and where they get built are dictated by the game scenario, and influence is only calculated if the game scenario tells you. So those kind of rules are only going to affect us. And of course, if you're playing a multiplayer game, those are the rules that impact all the players. So I think that's everything that we need to get started. It's very late at night. I'm not going to be able to start the game this evening, but I will be able to at least get this uploaded for you. And I'm hoping to get started tomorrow. And I know some of you have been anxiously wanting to see combat. I have it. I read the rules. The game rules are, they could be a lot better. Let me just put it that way. And it makes me, I mean, I feel like I have to go to work to get that game on the table. So I haven't given up on it. I'm not saying the game stinks. I haven't even played it. I'm just saying this one is my new shiny, and I've been more excited about this. I was able to get this to the table and read the rules and understand it in about an hour, whereas combat, I'm probably at 4 or 5 hours now, and I still don't feel I'm any closer to getting my first game going. So big difference. They both cost the same amount of money. Look at the component quality here versus the component quality there. It's not even close to the same. Anyways, enough of that other game. Let's talk Cloudspire. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay awesome.